on the road to WrestleMania. It's getting rocky real quick. Before we talk so much of that, I'll discuss some of the takeaways from the Royal Rumble. I think we agree, and not just we, but everyone I've spoken to, whether it was in person or on the internet or, like via text to people I know, the Women's Royal Rumble was where it was at. That was the best Royal Rumble. When it comes to either Royal Rumble, I think there was really no surprises. The only surprise in either Royal Rumble, I think, was the Jordana Grace TNA Knockouts champion in the first Royal Rumble. That's the second time that a TNA champion has been in the Royal Rumble. Mickie James 2 years ago was in the Royal Rumble in St. Louis. So with that fact, that was quite a surprise. We obviously knew about Naomi. We knew about Jade Cargill. We knew about Andrade. So none of those things were big surprises. I thought there was a lot of people left on the table that I actually thought, even if you didn't want to go the crazy surprise route of MJF or Okada, you could have went maybe like a Rey Mysterio return or something like that, which we didn't get, or maybe even, like a Big E return. I thought the Women's Royal Rumble was just better for the fact that it's a little less predictable. We knew Bayley was going to win, but I guess there was really no other person that was a front runner. There was no really other different avenue. We weren't like, oh, if Bayley doesn't win, then this person's going to win and then challenge for this other belt. And it also just added the element of, Jade Cargill and Liv Morgan are real potential candidates to have won the match, right? And potential candidates to really do something. Liv Morgan just making a return, Jade Cargill obviously making her debut. So I thought while it seemed like Bayley was, not a lock, but pretty certain to win, it was really 70%. Now, with the men, I would say it was 100% that it was going to be Cody Rhodes or CM Punk, right? And obviously, which one wasn't 100%, but when we got down to the final two, it was 100% going to be those final two. I will say the one thing that I enjoyed a little bit, Brandon, I don't know if you caught this last week. It ruined my time a little bit, but hey, made it actually happy that I guess Cody Rhodes won. Sports Illustrated, right before I took off on my flight, posted an article stating what they were informed was the WrestleMania 40 card, and it had Seth Rollins versus Gunther, the Royal Rumble winner, for the World Championship. So I was, and then obviously there was the rumors that on top of that, Triple H was upset that was out there, and other things. So I was just hoping that wasn't true, and maybe even if it was true, that WWE would change it up, would say, hey, this is out here, let's switch it. So the fact that he got eliminated near the end, I enjoyed, because then it makes that story false. And that's really what I care about mostly. I don't even care about my favorite wrestlers or anything. I want whatever is the most predictable or written down route to be false. We'll go into the Cody Rhodes finishing his story and how I feel about that in the sense of how predictability and how this should be played out, I guess, in the future. But right now, Brandon, the Royal Rumble has concluded. For those who didn't know at home, the crowd was incredibly hot. I keep hearing that it wasn't, and it was. The crowd was great for the Royal Rumble. A lot of people saying it was pretty dead. And yes, there was obviously dead spots like in the Women's Royal Rumble between some boring people coming out or some people that were really interested in. But when the Naomis came out or the Becky Lynches came out, you would have thought Becky Lynch was Sasha Banks, because that place exploded. And I can tell you what, I've been in Royal Rumbles now where there have been larger crowds. This was probably one of the smaller of the stadium crowds that I've been in, 48,000, which is, I think, less than Phoenix, less than a lot of the others, but louder. Absolutely one of the loudest crowds I've been in a long time. So those rumors of it being a dead crowd, I don't. Those are false. Those are just 100% false. I can't tell you a lot from being there, but I can tell you that much from being there. But now that we're post that, right, CM Punk comes out on Raw. I just want to first ask you a question. This injury, work or shoot?
I'm not sure right now, to be honest with you. To me, I'm still trying to decipher this whole thing. It's a very weird situation. I want to get your thoughts on it. I want to see if I'm crazy. What do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously everybody's put it out there that it's quite a confirmed report, but I guess my issue is with anything that's confirmed, right? What is confirmed? What? Because fightnews.com said it's confirmed. I mean, those are the kind of things. It's difficult in the world of wrestling and as a fan of wrestling to get things that are confirmed. I guess when NBC confirms it, it's more easy to believe. But my one takeaway was that when CM Punk came out on Raw and he gave his speech, I thought, okay, maybe he's legitimately hurt, right? Seth Rollins did the same thing 1 week ago. Seth Rollins, though, didn't get physical after that. No one came out and kind of lit a little fire under Seth Rollins. I mean, Gunther did, for sure, right? But that was actually after Seth Rollins said he wasn't going anywhere. But the fact that, and most importantly, that he got physical, that there was, physicality on somebody who was quote unquote injured, makes you kind of question it. Because to be honest with you, when Edge rode off in the sunset, or Batista said he was out and gave up the belt, or Finn Balor did it before on Monday Night Raw, we never saw them get like attacked on their way out the door. That is a completely new thing. Am I wrong there?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It was tough to read for me because I'm sitting there, and I buy the whole sling thing. I buy the whole get up. I mean, do you think it's part of the script? I mean, you're right, because, and that's a good point, where he gets beaten down by Drew McIntyre. Like, if it's a legitimately bad injury, you don't have Drew like stomp on it. You know what I mean? Like, like you don't want to do any more damage, because you just said Seth Rollins, he's not getting physical, so that tells me stuff's legit.
And I get Cody Rhodes last year, obviously, or now 2 years ago, right, at Hell in a Cell, right? He wrestled a match, very visibly injured. But I guess, the difference in that situation is that he was told he couldn't do any more damage to it. So I don't know if that's the case with a torn tricep thing with CM Punk. So I don't know if you can't do any more damage. But part of me kind of believes that, maybe it is a real injury, but maybe not as severe, meaning that, yes, he's going to miss Elimination Chamber. He's not going to be around for that. But maybe there's still an off chance he could be involved in WrestleMania.
I don't think so. I think he's out. For me, I don't think it's a work by any means. I guess the more I think about it, I think the next time we're going to see him, I think they're going to set up, I would say, Drew McIntyre. It's obvious. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk are going to cross paths at some point. I think that's going to be one of the marquee matches at SummerSlam. And I think what's going to happen, and it's in that timeline because SummerSlam's in the summer, if he works into that 4 to 6 month range, that's the healing time for an injury. And yes, he's on the other side of 40 at this point, so things don't normally heal as quickly as maybe somebody in their 20s or 30s. So maybe it's closer to the 6 months at that point. But even then, we just got into February, and 6 months from now is SummerSlam. So even on the back end of that 4 to 6, I feel like he could still come back right, shortly before SummerSlam and set up a program with Drew McIntyre. And here's the other caveat that people are not talking about. Drew McIntyre's working without a new contract. His contract's up after WrestleMania. So he is currently working reportedly without a new contract. So his contract is due to be up here in the coming weeks. So, why would, in my gut feeling is maybe they've already quietly worked on terms, because why would Triple H and company put Drew in such a spotlight before he's out the door? So for me, it's either like they have a deal in place, or the parameters are kind of in place and they're just working out the finer details. So for me, those reports out there are what they are. But if I have a feeling for how Triple H is booking things, I think Drew McIntyre has a new contract and we're just not hearing about it yet, because I think they're going to be one of, if not, make a co-main event for SummerSlam, because that is a marquee match between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. That's where I think it goes. I just wonder if we're going to get an announcement on Drew's deal yet.
question that I posed on Twitter this past week, and I want to pose it to you now and discuss, and we had some mixed reaction. It wasn't 100% one way or the other. A lot of votes involved, and that is obviously Seth Rollins' injury last week, CM Punk's injury, right? I understand, that we don't have a ton of people like, in their 50s, but 35 and older is your star power in WWE right now. Do you think the age of this roster, CM Punk being 35 or older, clearly, Cody Rhodes 35 or older, right? Roman Reigns 35 or older, okay? Randy Orton 35 or older. The list goes on. Sami Zayn 35 or older, right? I don't want to just go 45 and older. I understand Sting is over there in his 60s all himself, but I'm just saying in general, in the world of sports, being 37 isn't young, right? So the fact that your main events of your pay-per-view, WrestleMania main event last year was two people over the age of 37 years old. CM Punk's over the age of 37 years old. Sami Zayn. The Usos versus KO and Sami Zayn. That entire card was, I don't want to put 40 on Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens just yet, but I'm definitely saying I think the Usos, right, are post 40 or around there. It's definitely 37 or older. I'll fair to say that much.
Yeah, here's the thing. With wrestling, it's different than normal athletics. Like, when you look at the NFL, it's like, oh my God, he hit 30 years old. He's not a good running back anymore. Like, in the normal world, like, 30 is still young.
True, but looking at the injuries, though, that these guys are suffering, and you just talked about it, CM Punk, right? It may not heal as quick as somebody in their 20s.
But here's the thing, though. Even with that being said, the wrestling and a lot of the wrestlers, I've heard a lot of different shows and podcasts over the years. A lot of wrestlers are not hitting their prime until their late 30s, early 40s anyways, as a performer all around. Like, look at a Damian Priest. He's in his 40s now. AJ Styles is obviously, he's closer to 40 or 50 than he is 40 at this point. But wrestling is a little different because, 37, 38, yeah, that may seem old for, other sports that we all follow and love. But wrestling's different to me. I'm not concerned about it. And here's the other thing. These wrestlers are still doing a hell of a job. They still have a lot of left in the tank. And here's the kicker. There's already been reports out there that there's going to be not only one, not only two, but a trio of very young, by wrestling terms, very young. I believe they're all 30 and under, if I'm not mistaken. You got a trio of wrestlers coming up for SmackDown this coming week. You got Trick Williams, you got Carmelo Hayes, and you got Braun Breaker. So that tells me they're getting things ready, for the future. So for me, I ain't worried about it because once those guys that are closer to 50 are on their way out, at that point, we're going to have established stars in Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, and everybody's new favorite, Trick Williams right now. Trick Williams is on fire. A lot of people are saying that he's a main event, WrestleMania main eventer at some point. He's got that potential. So when you put that in there, and to me, I still have Trick Williams below Carmelo and Braun. I think he's just a step below. But when other people that I respect that cover wrestling are saying he's a future main eventer in WrestleMania, and he's kind of my third option, for me personally, that's pretty good. I feel like we're in good shape. I'm not worried about it. I feel like this roster, as deep as it is right now, with a good mix of older, younger, kind of in the middle, I'm not worried about it. What did the poll results say? Because when I did the poll, it was a very interesting poll.
Yeah, no, I think there was more people, not as concerned, but there were people obviously who were concerned. But I got some other questions that I want to throw out your way. And this one I didn't put on Twitter at all, but obviously, without having to discuss it so much here, because we're just one of a million different places to talk about wrestling. So if you're listening to us talk about wrestling, you're more than well aware. You don't even have to be a wrestling fan to know what's going on with Vince McMahon and that whole situation. But as it accounts to the wrestling product itself, there's another rocky bump on the road to WrestleMania because one of the people involved in that allegation is somebody who a very clear thought that we'd see him on Saturday night at the Royal Rumble, Brock Lesnar. Now that Vince McMahon is gone, essentially somebody who loved Brock Lesnar probably more than anyone else in that locker room. Now that Vince McMahon is gone, on top of the allegations that include Brock Lesnar's name, forget WrestleMania. Do we see Brock Lesnar in the WWE again?
Nope, I think he's gone. I think given the circumstances, given like what you just said, he was Vince's guy. Like Vince would call him anytime and say, "Hey, what do you need? What do you need to show up?" And he pretty much Brock could get whatever he wanted from Vince because Vince and Brock had that have that or still they've had that relationship. So for me, I think Nick Khan, I would say the whole TKO group.
Ari Emanuel, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't think Ari wants him there. Ari is one of those people where I think he wants to get as far away from this as much as possible. So any names that have come out already or have been speculated to be certain individuals, I think anything that has anybody's names tied to it, they're gone. I think Johnny Ace is gone. I think Johnny Ace's days are in wrestling are completely gone. Vince's are completely gone. I would say Brock's are completely gone. And let's be honest, I want to know everybody that's on that whoever else is there, because this isn't just one individual who is putting that stuff out there that Vince said did these things. Not only said, because he did say some really gross things, but he did certain things that obviously we can do. It's disgusting. I don't expect that's not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. So I want to see what happens with all because there's like what 12, 13 million give or take of money that's been given out to these victims. I want other names, because there are other names out there. There has to be. There can't just be 3 people. There can't be the 3 we just mentioned. There's got to be other names. So for me, anyone that has any ties to these heinous and disgusting acts, they need to be fired and they need to be out of wrestling completely for good.
I will say one thing that I found very strange, I guess, and in the reports in general is, because Vince McMahon, we're always just so taught to believe, and we learned about Vince McMahon a lot, to be, kind of somebody obviously who sticks with, the main people, Johnny Ace, right? Brock Lesnar's, the other big time executives there. But there was like an accusation that he was sharing pics with people on the tech crew. And it's just, I guess, strange to me that, because I work in a field where we have very higher ups, right? I'll be honest with you. The very higher ups, they're not down in my office kicking the shit talking about what happened at the Royal Rumble, right? Yeah. They're not sitting there, hey, what's going on? Who's your girlfriend? They're not doing any of that kind of stuff. So just thought it was kind of strange with like Vince McMahon was like share one of the conversation with, I was just talking to people on the tech crew, and I'm like, you're that close. I mean, I just imagine if I was on the tech crew or in one of these lower levels things, for Vince McMahon to just walk by and go, keep up the good work, boys, and then like just keep on walking, not to go, hey, you getting married, what's getting personal, I guess, with me in any way, let alone obviously
or like, hey,
way.
Or hey, check this out, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel like and
that was just strange to me. Not saying it's false, but just strange to me that he's like sharing some of these nude photos with like people on the production staff or like the riggers that set up this stage. Like I just wear the way that we've been conditioned to think about Vince McMahon and to see Vince McMahon and to just imagine what he's like. We imagine that he's a very stoic, very important, don't talk to him unless he talks to you. Like wrestlers have even said they've been hired and fired without ever having conversations with Vince McMahon. So like it's just one of those things that it just was very strange to me that like I said, wrestlers have worked for the company without actually ever having a conversation with Vince McMahon at all, their employer, but yet he's like down talking to the guys that are like tightening the ropes and just in general, like forget just what the conversation entailed, just in general, like knowing their names, knowing who they are, even like showing him anything that's on their phone, positive or negative. I just thought that was not like damning or proving one person guilty of the other. I just thought it was a strange in general to just because to be fair with you, I don't think the allegations itself are that strange in what we've also known Vince McMahon, right? Like the Stone Cold Steve Austin has always said it, like your on-screen persona is yourself, amped up to 10, right? So knowing Vince McMahon, just a little we know, right? Not saying again, people like his family and everyone else can say innocent until proven guilty. I understand that. Yeah. But it reminds me a lot of the Michael Jackson stuff, and where I'm not saying that he did these things, but boy, he still looked, he didn't, it would be like saying, hey, I'm not going to tell you that, what time I clocked out at, but there's a lot of inconsistencies in my story, and I can't prove, where I was at this time or something. It's like, I'm not saying that he's guilty of this stuff, but boy, like when it comes out and it's against Vince McMahon, you're not going, Vince McMahon? Well, I just could never even see that. Like, we already can kind of just see that in him personally, just the way he has talked both on screen and off screen. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things of you saying that it'd be like saying Vince McMahon did something wrong in the sense of business to get more money. That'd be like saying, did you hear, that Jeff Bezos, did something so that he could be even richer than he is now? I'm going to go, I am shocked. That guy only has money because it goes into his bank account without his knowledge. He would never try to obtain money with any illegal means it's just, like I said, not saying that he did these things, but boy, I mean, if you just have heard of Vince McMahon, if you've just heard of him without even being a wrestling fan, you're not literally shocked to think that he was who he is. I mean, he's already vocally, we've already seen him out with younger people, right? He's not with Linda anymore. He's done, shown that he's definitely somebody who's 80 years old and still on the market, or late 70 years old and still on the market with younger, females. He's on the dating scene. So just in general, it's just, it's crazy to see, I guess. And it's also crazy to see, I guess, that he would text and, use some of the slang he uses in these accusations, but just obviously the accusations of infidelity. And infidelity in the world of celebrity is not even something that shocked me, right? No matter who the celebrity is. When you're a high up, powerful figure with billions of dollars and you're saying, hey, this person's like accused of infidelity and doing some crazy, sexual things and accosting people, it's just not a complete shock. But sticking with the wrestling thing, as we got on the little tangent there, yes, Brock Lesnar, I don't know, but I guess my thing is it's gotta be worth it for him to come back, and I don't foresee why it would ever be worth it, because to be fair, from a wrestling perspective standpoint, they've already milked that cow as much as they can. When he comes back, they somehow, some way put him in like a match or something where we kind of, can pretend that he's, this unstoppable force. But we've already seen him go all those routes. We've already seen him beat The Undertaker. We've already seen him lose The Undertaker. We've already seen him do where Rey Mysterio can beat him. Just like all these kinds of things where, like, there is nothing essentially, they always say, what is there left to accomplish? When it comes to Brock Lesnar, to be honest with you, there's really nothing. It's the same as The Undertaker. There's nothing out there yet for them to do. The Undertaker, if he came back, it would be because he wants a payday, because he misses being in front of the crowd, because he likes wrestling. It's not because there is something out there he's yet to accomplish. He's not Cody Rhodes trying to finish a story. Brock Lesnar's won every belt. He's beaten everybody. Yeah. He's been the favorite, Goliath. He's had the Davids come and defeat him. He's defeated the Davids. He's gone on long winning streaks. He's done all of these kinds of things. So there's really no thing out there that we really want to see him do. We only just want to see him because he's Brock Lesnar, and it's kind of cool because he's a big time celebrity. He's an imposing figure. But as for like a story that really needs to be told in the world of wrestling, it doesn't. If he came in, right, I guess you could say the Gunther thing, but that's
it's
not
actually,
like I said.
It's actually better. You know what? I had to say this. Like, I think honestly, Gunther's better off not even going there, Brock. I mean, obviously after what's been reported out there, obviously that WWE's going to stay away from that, I think. But Brock Lesnar is the type of person, at least from watching him and seeing how he is over the years. He doesn't like the limelight. He just wants to come in, get a fat payday, beat some people up, and leave. That's Brock Lesnar. So honestly, I don't think Brock's probably made enough money. I would assume he's made enough money because of all the deals he's made over the years with WWE, UFC, and all that. I'm sure he doesn't have to work a day in his life, and he can live the way he's lived his entire professional life. So I think they're honestly, it's like it's like forcing him to as an early retirement, which kind of which sucks too, because I feel like this whole thing with that all the allegations like I would like to see something happen to him if these are all true. Like, there has to be something done, because if he's named in some sort of thing like that in the court system, like, there's got to be something there, and to me, like, everybody's got to pay a price to whatever crimes or whatever ills they've done. So, at the end of the day, Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. DiBiase. I mean, that whole thing was bad. But I mean, this whole
Oh,
thing is
I
just.
just meant the phrase you were just saying. Everyone's got to pay a price.
Oh well, yeah, well, and literally, DiBiase Jr. is paying a price too, if I'm not mistaken. So that's funny you mentioned that. But I mean, again, it's just one of those deals where everybody that's done something that's grotesque and to me, illegal according to the system, and obviously in the minds of the rest of us normal people that don't do devious things like that. I think there should be a price to be paid. But you know what? In WWE's terms, they're going to move past this and they're going to move as far away from it as possible. And I think Gunther's going to find himself a really good opponent. And I feel like we're going to see some really good shows with Gunther coming up. I'm curious to see really quick because I know we just got a couple minutes. I want to get your quick thoughts on where you see the whole title picture with Gunther, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns. Like, what do you see? Where do you see all this going?
Yeah, that's the thing with this road to WrestleMania. It is like so rocky. I just wanted to say one thing too that I think is very unfortunate. I guess obviously we learned that it seems pretty apparent that Braun Breaker took Brock Lesnar's spot in the Royal Rumble,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
was kind of disappointing in a way because I think Braun Breaker deserved that spot regardless of if Brock Lesnar was there or not. So essentially, he wasn't going to be in the Royal Rumble this year, even if Brock Lesnar was in the Royal Rumble, which I think is unfortunate because I think it is time for Braun Breaker to be up on the main roster without needing Brock Lesnar to step aside to do that. The world title picture right now is very confusing, but I will say this much. People are very much about saying, is Cody going to go after Seth? Is that going to be the thing? Listen, people forget we have another pay-per-view on the road to WrestleMania. There's still about 65 days to WrestleMania, and frankly, I have a lot to talk about when it comes to Cody versus Roman and how they're going to make this as unpredictable as possible. But the issue that I guess that we have most importantly is how do we build this out over 60 days? And I think the Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes thing is really just something to move us on till next week. I don't see any legitimacy in that. I just think that, hey, we got 65 days. If you're doing an investigation and you've got 100 days to investigate and there's a stone left unturned, you might as well lift it unturn that stone. What's the reason? What would stop you from not, right? You got 65 plus days till WrestleMania. You got like at least 6 or 7 Monday Night Raws until WrestleMania. We know it's probably going to be Roman versus Cody, a match we already saw last year and we already saw quite the build for. So why not just explore something else just to have that just for a few weeks? We'll have the entire month of March to focus on one match or the other. We don't really need the build for Cody Roman to be 2.5 months long. Like I said, this past Monday night, it was still January. So, I think that's just hey, let's just throw this out here because there's really no rush in getting to this other thing. Seems interesting and keeps people interested somewhat. So let's just throw this out here and maybe play with this for a few weeks. Because again, we have Elimination Chamber, right? We can't start just talking about WrestleMania on first and foremost. We got another pay-per-view. We got to pretend matters that we got to get to. And then after that, then obviously I'm more interested. If Cody and Seth have that program the night after Elimination Chamber, I'd be a lot more interested. But until we get past Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania is just nothing set in stone yet. And we're just kind of playing with some things and feeling them out.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. My last thought is, I'll say this. I feel like it could be like under my theory of Roman Reigns is going to be champion until next year, so we're going to be seeing Roman Reigns still the champion as of this, of February of 2025. My theory is this. I feel like they're going to do Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and Roman Reigns is going to still win. And then on the other side of it, I do actually there is some grain of salt to the old Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes thing. And here's the thing: Cody can finish the story. I figured out the perfect way to solve the problem. Cody gets to finish the story, and he gets to beat Seth Rollins, and then Seth Rollins can go away for a little bit, get his injury healed up, get the surgery done, and then come back and we can revisit it down the line. So you're checking 2 boxes there. You got Roman Reigns still staying champion, which I still think is the thing, which some people are getting sick of. But my feeling is he's going to be the champion going into WrestleMania next year, not this year, next year in 2025, WrestleMania 41. And then I think for WrestleMania 40 for this year, I think Cody Rhodes finishes the story, and at that point he beats Seth Rollins, and then Seth Rollins goes. He goes.
I'm gonna put that on Twitter. I'm gonna put on Twitter what you just said and see if people agree that those are gonna be the matches for WrestleMania. Those are Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns is a pretty strong prediction